Hello and welcome to Positive Vibes from the Valley. I'm your host, Ryan, and I work for the Northwestern Prevention Collaborative as Community Liaison and Training Coordinator. This podcast focuses on SAMHSA's 8 dimensions of wellness: emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, environmental, financial, occupational, and social. Today, we are actually at our season finale, believe it or not. And we're going to be talking a little bit about social wellness. And in order to kind of bring that home for all of us, we invited Miss Dolores Oates on our show today. Dolores, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Dolores, you serve on the Board of Supervisors for Warren County. Would you mind to tell us a little bit more about yourself, maybe any notable accomplishments, experiences, all that good stuff?
Well, my most notable accomplishment is that I'm the mother of 3 sons. And I also am the dog mom of 3 rescues. So those are my notable accomplishments. But other than that, I'm on the Warren County Board of Supervisors, and I serve the community in a multitude of ways in the past. I've actually been the head of a group called Young Lives. I co-led that with Misty Bordner, and we were mentors to teen moms in the community. So we ran that organization for a couple of years. I've supported the community in a number of ways in athletic organizations and civic organizations. And right now, my real focus on the Warren County Board of Supervisors is I am the co-chairman of the Front Royal Warren County Drug Prevention Committee.
Wow. First of all, you do a lot of great work within the community, and it sounds like you never have time to get bored. That's for sure.
Well, I like being busy.
No, absolutely. It's good for the soul, for sure.
It is.
Well, so we're talking a little bit about social wellness today, and I'm going to give you the textbook definition, Dolores, and then we're going to kind of dive into that a little bit. So SAMHSA defines social wellness as basically involving healthy relationships with friends, family, and the community, and having an interest in and the concern for the needs of others and humankind, which is a big definition there, right? How would you define social wellness, maybe specifically at the community level?
So I believe at the community level, and one of my responsibilities as a leader in the community is to create an environment where others can attain their greatest potential. And that's my idea of social wellness. I think that if you find your purpose in this life, that you're never going to be bored, you're never going to feel like it's work, you're always going to be excited to get out of bed in the morning. And so that's what I see as social wellness in our community is assisting others to find that sense of purpose in their lives.
I like that better than the textbook definition, just so you know.
Well, that's Dolores' definition. But
So, and thinking maybe along the lines of the youth specifically, and I know you just touched on this, but why do you think it's so important to foster that within the community? And again, thinking of our youth and getting them on track.
Well, young people are our future. They're the future leaders. They're the future, volunteers. They're just the future of our whole community. And, I have a vision for Warren County that we can have a place where people work, live, and play. And so I want, Warren County to be a welcoming community. And our young people need to feel like they're going to be an instrumental part of that. So, as leaders, we need to encourage them to be involved. In fact, I hope now post-COVID, I'm hoping to work with the Warren County school system to get a program started that will help young people come in and maybe mirror or shadow government officials and leaders, so they're not afraid of their government and they feel like they can become an instrumental part of it in the future. So that's one of the ideas but there's so many to get young people involved.
Well, and I'm glad you said that, because I think that is really, truly important about involvement. And we talk a lot about, especially here at the MPC, about community and how important it is for all of us, to come together and feel like we have a hand and a thought and that our voice matters. And when we're talking about this, how do you think we go about fostering this within the community? So not only with the youth, but also, all of the residents. How do you think we best foster and encourage social wellness on the community level?
Well, as a government, from the government perspective, we need to encourage those organizations that do that kind of work in the community. We need to help leaders be involved. We need to communicate with them on a regular basis. We need to demonstrate that, things are happening. And then the most important thing, Ryan, I believe, is we need to reach out. People don't always come to us and the little events we're having. So how do we go to them? And that has been an idea that I've been trying to, but of course COVID prevented it, but it's been an idea that I have wanted to implement, is maybe to reach out as a government, do community events and go to neighborhoods, and set up in the cul-de-sacs and invite people to come talk to us, instead of always expecting people to come to an event or come to something that we're hosting. So outreach, I think, is very important in fostering that kind of community wellness.
Again, that's a fantastic point. And we talk a lot too about meeting people where they are, and again, creating that within the community and getting people again involved. And you're exactly right. And I really like what you said a moment ago about reducing that fear and that, trepidation about stepping out. And as you noted with this pandemic, I get the feeling that there's a fear in general with regards to, we've been inside, we've kind of been in our own little boxes now for a pretty good while. So I definitely feel there's a trepidation to step out and, get involved in our community just in general. So I think by creating those events, meeting people where they are, whether it's virtually or in the cul-de-sacs, which I love, really meeting these guys where they're at. So, and I guess my next question for you would be, so when we're thinking of ways that the youth could get involved within the community, what would that look like, do you think? When we're talking maybe volunteer work or maybe even employment, with their local government, maybe at school. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think that we have lots of events and things in our community. It's interesting that you asked that question, because I met with a doctor yesterday who's trying to promote a walking track from here, or bike riding path from here to Broadway. And one of the things we talked about was going out into nature and having children experience more in nature and walking paths and being outdoors. And we have this beautiful community. We have hiking trails, and we have, the river, and we have all these things. And so just, I think, creating activities around the beautiful resources and nature that we have in the community would be a first step to getting kids involved. And then we let them find, so I believe we have to help young people find their passions and their purpose. And, we're all gifted in some way or another. So as gifted people, if we can help young people find those passions for themselves, I think they'll find their way just fine.
Absolutely. And we talk again a lot here about how, we try to work hand in hand with our youth and not just necessarily direct them and tell them. We let them tell us a lot of the time and create that reciprocal relationship with one another. So I think that's a fantastic point that you bring up there. And I know we're talking a lot about the youth. So what about other members of the community? And I think, again, we talk about people maybe feeling ostracized and maybe feeling like they want to do something, they want to do more. What does that look like? How would you encourage others to get more involved with their community to foster that social wellness, again, at the community level?
Well, it's all about, I think, one-on-one invitations. I'm about looking somebody in the eye and saying, hey, I need your help. Or, hey, you would be really good at this. And so, again, people don't always come to you. You have to reach to them. One of the things I learned campaigning, I went door to door and knocked on doors in all of my district, and so much of it. And it was a lot about just finding out where people were and what their interests were and what their concerns were, and then inviting them to participate. And so that is really important, I think, is just having conversations, being out there, inviting others to help you in whatever you're doing. And then they learn. They learn what is important to them and where they might want to plug in at another time. So again, every one of us, and I tell people this, we're all ambassadors to Front Royal and Warren County. So we need to act like that. We need to invite people, to welcome them, to say, hey, how are you? What do you do in your spare time? And the conversation will take you the direction you need to go.
Absolutely. And also just to comment again, I think that one-on-one really helps with, again, we mentioned the trepidation that the youth feel, but I think the adults feel it too. It's not just the youth who are faced with this situation where, school and everything that they've kind of known changed drastically. Everything changed really drastically for all of us. So now I think having that one-on-one conversation, reaching out and saying, hey, come with me. Let's learn, let's join, let's take this step together really goes a long way. So great point on that, Dolores. I really appreciate you saying that.
Thank you.
Now I got to put you on the spot a little bit here. So
okay.
One of the things we talk about a lot here also is about balance, right? So we're looking at the 8 dimensions of wellness, and you already mentioned one of the things to foster social wellness within the community, talking about nature and environmental wellness, of course, is one of our dimensions. And we talk about that important balance between all the dimensions. And then we look kind of with a fine microscope at these subdivisions within that dimension, okay, and how we can keep those balanced. So, Dolores, you're very busy. You have a lot of things going on. How do you find time and how do you balance your own social wellness? How do you make that happen?
Well, it's a combination, like you mentioned, it's spiritual. So I pray, I read every morning. So, and then, activity. I really think exercise is a way to get out some of the stresses. So, walking, doing something that keeps me moving. Is certainly helpful in the balance. But, I find a sense of balance just by serving. It gives me a great sense of satisfaction when I go to bed at night to know that I've accomplished, I've done something helpful throughout the day. Somebody's life might be changed for the better for that. So that's kind of the way that I balance. And I lean on my family a lot. I have a very strong family unit. So I lean into them, my sons, my husband, my son's girlfriends and wives. And so family is very important to me. So I balance in that way.
That's another great point. Dolores, I think something that we should definitely talk about with regards to social wellness is the importance of that social system, a good support system. And it sounds like, between 3 sons, 3 dogs, wife, girlfriend,
Yeah.
it sounds like an extensive support system, but it definitely sounds like a good support system. And do you have any recommendations for people who are maybe trying to find that support system? Because not everyone maybe has that maybe family support system. Do you have any recommendations for how people can foster and generate a support system, or maybe resources they can look to create their own social system?
Well, there is a wealth of resources in our community. There are faith-based organizations, there are civic organizations, and all of those any one of those is willing, I think, to be a support system for someone who is without it. I know that it's important to have somebody to lean on. I'm a big fan of mentorship. If you've got somebody that you can reach out to and say, I am having a bad day, or I'm about to make a bad choice. I know that's happened to me. So I have somebody in my life that, I can pick up the phone and say to her, I'm going to make a bad choice. And she'll say, let's get you off the ledge. And so we move on from that. But it's really important for somebody, if you can find a mentor or somebody who's willing to be that person to you, it has helped immensely in my own life. And I think a lot of the civic organizations will offer that sort of mentorship, and I know the faith-based organizations do.
Great point. I know a lot of people, again, talk about resources, and they can be kind of then that generic, like, hey, there's resources here. But
yeah.
Where? And I think you do a nice job of highlighting, between our faith-based, between our civic, there are opportunities out there, especially for our youth to, again, get involved and get that mentorship early so they can learn that leadership. Do you have any final kind of tips and generalized thoughts and tips that you would like to give any of our listeners out there? And I'll kind of challenge you here again on thinking of, our younger listeners. So final and general tips for those guys. And then we'll move more into, overall, just general members of the community.
I think it's really important to reach out if you feel like you're alone. I know isolation was a big deal during COVID, and having a strong family unit helped our family work through it. But I know a lot of people felt very isolated. So if you know somebody and have a strong family unit like myself, reach out to somebody that who doesn't, and say, hey there, I just want to check in on you. Everybody appreciates being checked in on. I can just tell you that. We all appreciate somebody who's saying, haven't seen you for a while, wanted to see how you were doing, and the conversation can evolve from that. So that's really important. Young people especially, ask them, what's going on in your life? I'm going to tell you, they're going to say nothing, but keep probing, keep asking, because eventually they may open up and tell you what's really going on. As for young people, go help somebody else. Nothing makes you feel better about your life than giving to someone else, either, helping or guiding or supporting. Get involved, volunteer. I think that's really important for all young people to start at a very young age. Train your kids to give, to help, because the more you give, the more you get.
Absolutely. And you really did a nice job, again, highlighting, we talk about the difference between listening and hearing, right? So, hey, what's going on? Yeah, nothing. Okay. Hey, I heard you. But listening is, okay, well, tell me more. So you mean absolutely nothing is going on? So you're sitting in a dark room staring at the wall, right? No. So what is going on? Tell us about your day. So you're going out with friends? Hey, who? Where are you headed to? Just taking that extra interest and involvement. And really we think of that, I think, in a parental kind of sense, but even in the community, just asking and being cordial with one another, really goes a long way.
I agree, Ryan. So my kids hate to go to the grocery store with me. They used to hate to when they were younger, because I acknowledge people. I like to meet people and talk to them and say, hey, I noticed this, or hey, I noticed that, and they would say, do you know that person? I would say, no. I'm exchanging recipes in the grocery store with people, right? And my kids are like, oh my gosh. But anyway, but that's important, just making eye contact. I always thank my checker, my bagger, hey, I appreciate what you did today. Hey, how's it going? I bet you'll be glad when you get off here. What are you going to do? Those kinds of conversations, instead of looking down, never making eye contact with with people, and I'm a very social person. So that just comes naturally to me. But I think other people have to work at it.
Absolutely. And the great thing about that is in those conversations, you're talking maybe a minute or two out of your day, totally free, right? Doesn't cost a thing. That old adage about it costs nothing at all to be a good person. And, something that we've mentioned before is this thought that who knows, that innocent conversation of you complimenting the cashier's shirt may mean a lot more than you know. Who knows what
Exactly.
that cashier is going through? And really, I think those good conversations where we reach out is how we create that sense of unity and belonging to our community.
I agree. We're glad you're here. I say that to lots of people when they come into our meetings. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you came. You may disagree with me, but I'm glad you came to tell me that.
Absolutely. Well, Dolores, are there any as we're wrapping up here, are there any last thoughts, any last things that you'd like to share with any of our listeners today?
Well, I think Warren County is a wonderful place to live, to work, to be involved. I'm very proud of Front Royal. I want people to feel that same pride in their community. And, we all make a difference one way or another. And so make a positive difference. Do something, check in on somebody, say hello, start a conversation with your neighbor. That kind of thing I think is important for social wellness.
I love that. We all make a difference one way or the other, and make sure it's a positive one. That's very
Yeah.
powerful, very strong. Well, thank you so much for coming on to our big season finale. Thanks to all of our listeners for tuning in and enjoying the season. So you'll have to stay tuned for our next season. We'll have a more in-depth look into some of our different dimensions. We'll have some fresh perspectives. I would encourage everyone to go check out our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel. You can also hear our other podcasts, basically on all the major streaming platforms. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you can definitely check us out. And then, of course, make sure you go check out Dolores at those supervisor meetings, right?
Yeah. We welcome in public input. So there's always public input at the beginning of the meetings.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again so much, Dolores, for joining me today. Really appreciate your thoughts and your input. And again, thanks to all of our listeners. Take care.
Thanks, Ryan.